Hey everyone, it's me Bailey and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be reading Destiny Sidwell's favorite book. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, you probably know who Destiny Sidwell is. She is a booktuber here on YouTube and I really enjoy her content. It is a little like chaotic, but honestly, like I love it. Like her editing is so good and her personality is just so fun. So I am going to be reading 3 of her favorite books in today's video. I have not done a video like this before where I've like read other people's favorite. I have done like a book swap one time with one of my friends where they gave me 2 books to read and I gave them 2 books to read and we like swapped like that. But now I'm just going to be reading Destiny's favorite book. So I am going to be reading 3 books that I've heard her talk about. She did like a 5-star reads video that she talked about some of her favorite books, as well as on her podcast with Sarah she talked about her favorite book in there as well. So based on those 2 instances, I have gathered together 3 books from both of those lists to read during this video. So the books that I'm going to be reading during this video are Happy Place by Emily Henry. This is a newer release, but recently in the podcast she did say that this was one of her absolute favorite books and that Emily Henry is one of her favorite authors, and I have already read Emily Henry's other 3 books, so I'm going to be reading this one. I know she said that Beach Read was one of her favorites, but I have already read that, and then in the podcast she said that Happy Place was a favorite, so I'm going to be reading this one during this video. I am also going to be reading Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren, and this is a favorite for a lot of people. I just have not gotten around to it yet. I have read Every Summer After and everyone is saying that this was the blueprint for that book, and that book is basically like a carbon copy of this book, so I'm interested to see if that's true or not. So I am going to be reading this book for this video as well. And the next book that I'm going to be reading is one that I've seen a lot of mixed reviews about. It's one that you either absolutely love it or you absolutely hate it, and it's also pretty massive, and that is Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. So this is the first book in the Boys of Tommen series, and Destiny screams about this series. She absolutely loves this series, so I am definitely interested to see if I'm going to like this book or not. It is a romance that takes place in Ireland, I believe, and he is like a rugby player. I think that's really all I know about it, is that there's Johnny and Shannon, and that's all I know. And I know that there's like 3 other books out right now in this world, so I'm gonna read this first one and see if I like it before I like buy more books in the series, which I do know that this series is being traditionally published soon, so maybe I'll like it. I'm hoping I will like it, so we'll see. I am definitely a little bit nervous about this one just because I've heard the most like mixed reviews about this one, but these are the 3 books that I'm going to be reading for this video, and so I'm going to be starting with Happy Place and then figuring out what I want to read after that. So we're going to be starting with Happy Place, and let's get to reading. while since I've talked to the camera, but I did want to have an update on here. So I finished Happy Place by Emily Henry, which is the first book that I was reading for this video. I have finished it like literally 2 minutes ago, and I am giving this 5 stars. Like, I love this book. This is definitely my favorite Emily Henry book that I've read out of the like 4 of her books that I've read now, and this was just everything. Like, it had me feeling all of the emotions. Like, it had me feeling the hope for Win and Harriet. It had me feeling the like heartbreak and the sadness that they were feeling throughout the whole book, plus like the angst between them and hoping that they would get together in the end. And I really enjoyed the setting and just the characters in general. And I also love how there was like an underlying plot about friendship and how like you need to work on your friendship and how your friendships need to feed you the way that your other relationships do. And honestly, this was just so good. Like, the writing was so good, the setting was so good, the characters were so good. Like, this was literally just so good. So definitely 5 out of 5, would recommend, and I'm so happy that I picked this book up. But now that I finished that one, I'll be moving on to the next book for this video, which I believe is going to be Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. So I'm not going to pick it up just yet. It'll probably be a little bit before I end up picking it up, because I do have a few other books that I need to get read before I can actually pick this one up. So it might be a little bit longer before I start that book, but I did want to come on here and update that I did finish Happy Place for this video, and I loved it. So if you have not read Happy Place, then I highly recommend it. Definitely my favorite Emily Henry book out of them all that I've read. So yeah, pick it up if you have not. But that's gonna be it for now, and I will talk to you guys when I have an update on Love in Other Words. Hello, so I'm coming back to update this vlog. So I am now ready to start the second book for this vlog, which is Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. And I have heard Destiny talk about this book, and that is one of her favorite books of all time. I know she recently reread it to make sure that it like held up, since she had read it like so long ago. But I have never read this book, obviously, and it is told in like dual timelines, which if you are not new to my channel, then you know I'm not usually the biggest fan of dual timeline stories, but I've heard this one is done really well, and so I am interested to see if I am going to like this book or not. There have been a couple of dual timeline books that I have enjoyed, so if this one is done as well as everyone says that it is, then I'm hoping that I am going to love this story. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started reading this book, and I will update you guys with my thoughts a little bit later. So I just finished Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren, and I understand the hype. Literally, this book was absolutely phenomenal. So good. And I'm just so happy that I've read this. It blew me out of the water. It was more than I expected. Literally, I did spoil myself for kind of the ending, but it still was very impactful, even though I didn't spoil myself for like the whole thing. This book is very old. Okay, well, I don't want to say very old, but this book is an older book, so you know, it has been around for a while, so people aren't as like cautious about spoiling the ending. But I think spoil it for myself on accident on like TikTok or like Twitter or something, I'm not sure, but I did know one part of the ending, but it was still so hard-hitting and impactful to me, even though I knew part of what was going to happen. But like, I definitely did cry at the end of this, which I'm not one to like cry in books usually, but this one got me for sure. So I definitely am so happy that I read this, and it's definitely getting a 5-star from me. So yeah, I will probably be thinking about this book for a very long time. But now that I finished this book, I'm going to be moving on to the next book for this video, which is Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. So I am going to be starting that today as well. So yeah, I am going to go ahead and start that, and I will update you guys when I have an update a little bit later. Hello, so I have been reading Binding 13, and I'm currently on chapter 10, which is page 131. And so far, this book is so funny to me. Like, it's very dated. So I was looking up like when it was written, and because obviously it's set in 2005 and it reads very much like it's set in 2005. Like, some of the lines in here are so cringy, and I don't know, but I'm having fun reading this. Like, I'm not taking it too seriously, and I'm just having like fun reading it. And it is like giving me, for some reason, it's giving me like Twilight vibes for some reason, even though it's like has nothing to do with vampires, is not set even in the United States. It's set in Ireland, and it's based on like a rugby team basically. I don't know, but Johnny just gives me Edward vibes for some reason, and Shannon just gives me like Bella vibes for some reason. So it's definitely like giving Twilight, I don't know, but overall I'm having fun with it. Like, obviously I knew that this probably wasn't going to be the best book that I've ever read in my entire life going into it, but I did have high hopes since Destiny did give it 5 stars. But I think with like me just like not taking it too seriously and just having fun with it, like I definitely do think that I'm going to end up enjoying this story overall, and I do feel like I might see myself continuing on with this series. But for now, I'm just having a good time and am just gonna continue reading it. It is very long though. Like, this is a chunky book. It's like 700 pages, and so I'm like, okay, what can happen in 700 pages? I guess a lot. But I recently just read the like cat in the bathtub scene, and that was so funny to me. So overall, as of right now, I'm having a time. It's fun. Wouldn't take it too seriously, and as of right now, I think I might recommend it, but I don't foresee this being like one of my favorite books of all time. But we're still really early into the book, so we'll see. But yeah, so I've read all that I'm going to read for today. I'm getting ready to go to bed because I do have to go to work tomorrow, but I'm going to try to finish this out during the week. So I will update you guys more on my thoughts while reading this book. Hello, so I have just finished Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh, which I have decided to give this 3.5 stars. So I know this is one of Destiny's 5-star reads, and unfortunately this one just did not fit that 5-star criteria that I personally have. But I will say that the overall story was really good, and I do see myself continuing on with this series. I never would have picked this up, I don't think, on my own, but now that I have, I definitely do see myself continuing on with the later books in the series. I am really excited in the future, hopefully soon, I don't know, because it seems like it's taking a really long time for these books to come out, but I am really looking forward to Gibbsy and Claire's book, so I am super excited for that whenever it comes out. But I will be picking up the next book in the series and reading that. So I'm really happy that this video had me pick this book up, because like I said, this probably wasn't something that I would have picked up on my own. But yeah, the story itself was really good. The writing wasn't super great. I believe it was written in like 2014, and the story itself takes place in 2005. And I felt like there was some disconnect at the beginning because it felt very like cringy in a sense. I don't know. But when I got around the halfway mark, it started really growing on me, and I started to really like the characters more. And I would say like the overall story itself is really good, even though it did take me a little while to kind of really get into it. But overall, I would say that this is not a bad book, and I definitely would recommend it. It does have trigger warnings for abuse really heavily in this book, so if you are sensitive to that subject, then I would not recommend this book for you. But yeah, so that is going to be it for now. I'm probably going to close this video out later because I want to talk about my overall thoughts on all 3 books that we read in this video. So I will see you guys in the outro. Hello. So I wanted to come on here and give my final thought on the books that I read for this video. So in this video, I read Happy Place by Emily Henry, and I gave this 5 stars. I really enjoyed this, and I definitely would recommend it. It was honestly so good. I love the way that it talked about life and friendships, and it being okay to not know what you want 100% of the time, and how you might think that one day that your career path is for you, and then the next you realize that it's completely different from what you ever imagined and ever thought that you wanted, and that you would be more comfortable doing something else. And I love those conversations, and I love what Emily Henry did in this book. So 5 stars. And then the next book that I read was Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren, and again, this was another 5-star read. I really loved this book. I've always heard everyone compare this to Every Summer After, or at least compare that to this, and this was like a million times better than that. Like, I didn't like the 3rd act conflict and the reason for the breakup in Every Summer After, but in this one it was just so heartbreaking. And honestly, I just feel like Macy, although she did go through some stuff, Elliot also went through something very traumatic, and so they both were going through 2 very traumatic things at the same time, and they were so young. And honestly, this was just so good. Like, honestly, just so good. So cannot recommend this book enough. But definitely there are a couple of trigger warnings, so if you find yourself sensitive to certain topics, then I would definitely look into those before reading this. And the final book that I read for this video was Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh, and I gave this 3.5 stars. So I want to say that this was very good, or at least not like very good at the beginning. I don't know, my thoughts were kind of all over the place with this book. Like, at the beginning it was a little iffy for me, but the further I got into it, the more that I really started loving Johnny and Shannon and the relationship that they were starting to form. And it is a found family type story, and those are always so like feel good to me, so I really enjoyed that aspect of this story. The writing, however, wasn't super great, and like I said, the beginning was very like touch and go, because there were some things in here that just were very, not necessarily problematic, but I mean, I guess I could see how they would be construed as that way. But it was definitely annoying the way that they kept referring to Shannon as little. Like, we get it, she's small, but they called her little or small or tiny or any of those words like literally every other page. So it was just like kind of annoying on that aspect. But overall, I am continuing the series. I already ordered the 2nd book, and it should be here in a couple days, so I'm super excited to continue on with this story, even though this one wasn't exactly a 5-star book for me. But I definitely can understand why people really love this series. Okay, so that was me reading some of Destiny Sidwell's 5-star reads, and overall I would say that this was a pretty positive experience. I feel like my taste is kind of similar to hers, so it was definitely interested in reading some of her favorite books. That one that I probably would have never picked up on my own, and the other 2 ones that it just has taken me forever to get to. But yeah, so that is going to be all for today's video. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content from me. I'll have all of my social medias linked in the description, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.